Okay, today we're going to start chapter 2. Chapter 2, we're going to talk about just some different statements that we use, some different laws or rules we use to rewrite specific things. Okay, state whether things are true or false. So today specifically, we're talking about conditional statements. So on the first page of your notes, we're going to go through some of these things together. So a conditional statement can be written as an if-then statement. So if we write things with words, like shown here, we would say if P then Q, which these are just examples, so we'll talk about using some real things in a second. Symbols, we use an arrow, right? So if I'm going to draw something, if P, the arrow means then Q. Okay? So the first example says, if a polygon is a triangle, then the sum of its angle measures is 180. So the first part, this underlined part here, that says if a polygon is a triangle, that would be our hypothesis. Okay? And what do you know about when we talk about a hypothesis? Then you have to have a what? Conclusion. So what part of this would be our conclusion?
180.
Yeah. The sum of the angles is the 180 would be our conclusion. Okay? All right. On our examples, it says rewrite each statement into an if-then form and determine if the statement is true or false. Okay? So the first example says all birds have feathers. So we're going to write an if-then statement, okay? And then we'll determine if it's true or false, okay? So I'll kind of help you with the first one, then we'll kind of talk through these together. So let's do if an animal is a bird. Okay, so our hypothesis is here. What would be our conclusion? Yes. Okay, our conclusion is then the bird has feathers. Now, is this a true or false statement? True. Why would it be false? Is penguin a bird or a mammal?
A penguin is
Or
a
a
bird.
I don't know that a penguin is a bird. Penguins can't fly.
But exactly, it's the one bird that can fly.
No,
Actually, ostrich, but ostrich has feathers.
Fly?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of can, like.
Okay, they're still gonna
Google it. Is it penguin or
We are.
It can fly.
A chicken jumps and flaps its wings. A penguin can jump and flap its wings too. So.
They can just jump really high.
Well, they are birds. They're just flightless birds.
But they have a bird that's.
It's bird, not feathers.
See, now y'all got me thinking about.
Because they lay eggs.
Now we're going down a. Oh, penguins do have feathers.
Yeah.
Some of them do.
Yeah.
It's what the Goog says. If we're gonna trust it for the other stuff, we gotta trust it for this. Okay. Anyway, let's carry on. All right. Example 2 says you live in Texas if you live in Houston. Okay.
If you live in Texas, you live in Houston.
Okay.
No, if you live in Houston, you live in Texas.
If you live in Houston, then you live in Texas. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Caden, tell me again how I would write it.
If you live in Houston.
There we go. So our hypothesis: if you live in Houston,
Then you live in Texas.
yes. Now we know this has to be true. We don't need to debate this one. Okay. All right, again, our first part is our hypothesis. Our last part is our conclusion.
I don't think the next one's true.
Okay. Give me an if-then statement.
then. it's-
using these things.
Okay, if it's an acute angle.
So if an angle is acute, all right, so our hypothesis,
And then it measures to 30.
then it has a measure of 30.
Yeah, yeah. That is not. It could be all the way from 89 to 1.
Bless you. So our hypothesis, saying an angle is acute, our conclusion has to be 30 degrees, which we know is false.
It's one of many.
Okay? So far, okay?
Yep.
All right, second part we're going to talk about is negation. A negation of a statement is the what? Anybody have an idea?
Separating.
No.
Opposite.
Opposite, yes. So negation of a statement is the opposite of the original statement, right? So with words, remember we talked about before up at the top, we could say not P, or you use this little symbol that's like a squiggly line. Okay, so whatever P may be. So like in this case, if the statement is the ball is not red, how can I negate that statement?
Ball is red.
The ball is red, okay? So just writing the opposite of what they give us. Now, example 2 is a little different because it gives us an equation. What's the opposite of 3x minus 8 is equal to 14?
Negative 3x plus 8.
Nope,
14 equals.
nope. We're thinking too difficult. What's the only thing you switched on this first one? The ball is not red, you changed it to the ball is red. So these two things are equal. Now you're going to change them to not equal. Right? This symbol with a line through it means not equal to. Okay? All right. Let's look through the back page. These always get a little bit confusing, so we're going to work through them together. Okay? I know. It does. This is like one of my least favorite chapters because it feels like we're doing a lot of English and not math, but it's all right. We'll make it through. Some of you all will love that. All right. So to write the converse of a conditional statement, you exchange the hypothesis and the conclusion. So all of our statements we've just wrote, like on the front page that we wrote, were hypothesis first, conclusion second. Yes? If it asks you to write the converse, you just flip those two things. Okay? You write the conclusion first, then the hypothesis. Okay? To write the inverse of a conditional statement, you just negate it, right? So it keeps the same order, but you change it to not P, not Q, however that works, which we're going to go through this in a second. Okay? And then the last one is going to be the contrapositive. Contrapositive, you both exchange and negate. So you switch the order they're written and you change them to not P, not Q, whatever it may be. Okay? And then last one is the truth value of a statement has to be either true or false.
You just said last.
Well, it was your last, conditional statement or whatever. Truth value, you guys know to say if something is true or false. All right. So our first statement, our conditional statement says, if a month only has 30 days, then it is in June. So to write the converse, we're going to switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So how would I rewrite this statement? If a month only has 30 days, then it is in June.
If it's in June, it only has 30 days.
Yes. So we just switch. So if it is June, then it only has 30 days. Now, for this section specifically, your notes are going to be important because these can get confusing, okay? Like, even when I do them, sometimes I have to look back and see which one am I doing, okay? So your notes are going to be helpful to you, all right? Now, on our inverse, the order stays the same as the original, right? The only difference is you change them to not P, so change them to their opposite. So how would I rewrite if a month only has 30 days, then it is in June, changing those both to their opposite?
If the month does not have 30 days, it's not in June.
Good. So if a month doesn't have 30 days, then it is not in June. And then the contrapositive basically just flips the inverse. So the one we just wrote, now just change the order. So somebody besides Austin, tell me what the contrapositive would be if we switch the order of the inverse.
If it is not June.
Good. If it is not in June, then what? Good. Then it doesn't have 30 days. Okay. Now, let's go through and just talk about some of these things. Okay. So, our first conditional statement said, if a month only has 30 days, then it is June. Is that true?
No.
No, because are there other months that have 30 days?
Yeah.
Yes. So we would say our first one is false. Okay. Our second statement, if it is June, then it only has 30 days. True. Yeah, June only has 30 days. Okay. If a month doesn't have 30 days, then it is not June.
True.
Also true. Okay. If it's not June, then it doesn't have 30 days. False. Good. Okay. So we just go through, we talk about each of these things, then we're going to move on with this. All right? Okay. Last little part on this. When two statements are both true or both false, they are called. Oh,
True. No.
I can't even read my own writing. That's bad.
I'm going to try to understand that.
How do you pronounce that first word?
I'm so sorry. This should be logically. Okay, now here's how that's going to work. Your converse and inverse. And then your conditional and contrapositive.
Every time?
Well, if they're logically equivalent, then yes, it'll be converse and inverse same, conditional, contrapositive the same. Okay? All right, last little part. When a conditional statement and its converse are both true, you can write them as a single biconditional statement.
What the heck?
That contains the phrase if and only if. So when the conditional statement and the converse are both true, right? The converse does what? Switches the order correct? Okay, so our first one says, if two lines intersect to form a right angle, then they are perpendicular. Is this true? Yes? Okay. We know if two lines intersect and they form a right angle, then they are perpendicular. What would the converse be of this statement?
If it's a perpendicular line.
If lines are what?
If your lines are perpendicular.
Okay.
It would be a right angle.
Okay. If lines are perpendicular, then they form a right angle. Now, is that statement also true? Yes. So, our conditional statement, our original, and its converse are both true. So we can write that statement as an if and only if statement. Okay? So we can say lines form a right angle. Sorry. If and only if what? What would be the rest of that?
They're perpendicular.
If they are perpendicular, yeah. Okay.
Could you start the sentence off with if and only if?
No. It'd have to be in the middle. Because that's saying like the first part is true if and only if the second part. Okay? All right. We're going to do just a few practice problems today out of your book. So we're going to be on
You have an assignment? Grow up.